There are Disney classics that dazzle with spectacle, and then there are those that whisper their way into the American imagination. Bambi is the latter, gentle, lyrical, deceptively simple, and yet one of the most influential animated films ever made. Today on Walt's Wisdom, we're stepping into the forest to explore how this quiet little film became a cornerstone of Disney storytelling, a landmark in animation, and a cultural touchstone that still echoes in American life. Bambi follows the life of a young deer, destined to become the great prince of the forest. We watch him grow from a curious fawn to a young adult, learning about friendship, danger, love, and loss. Alongside Thumper, Flower, and Feline, Bambi discovers the beauty and harshness of the natural world. The film culminates in a forest fire, an elemental force that tests Bambi's courage, and ends with the cycle of life renewed. The story of Bambi begins long before the film itself. In 1923, Felix Salten published Bambi, A Life in the Woods, a novel that was anything but a children's book. It was a somber, sometimes brutal meditation on nature, survival, and the fragility of life. Disney read it in the early 1930s and immediately saw potential, not for a cartoon, but for something elevated, something poetic. He purchased the rights in 1937, the same year Snow White premiered, but Bambi proved far more challenging. The studio struggled to adapt Salten's tone. Early story meetings were filled with questions. How do you make a fawn a compelling protagonist? How do you portray nature without anthropomorphizing it too much? How do you tell a story where the villain is never seen? Walt pushed his artists relentlessly. Let's not make this a cartoon, he insisted. Let's make it real. He wanted the forest to feel alive, the animals to move with anatomical accuracy, and the emotional beats to land with honesty rather than sentimentality. To achieve this, Walt brought live deer into the studio. Animators sketched them for months. Mark Davis later joked, "We learned more about deer than most hunters ever will." The team also studied forests, light diffusion, and natural movement. The result was a level of realism that had never been attempted in animation. The research and work that went into creating Bambi eventually led to Disney's decision to create the award-winning True Life Adventure series, the real foundation for all modern nature documentaries. But realism came at a cost. Production slowed, budgets ballooned, and then the war hit. Overseas markets closed, and Disney's finances tightened. Bambi became one of the most expensive films the studio had ever attempted. Yet Walt refused to compromise. "If we're going to do it," he said, "we're going to do it right." The voice cast of Bambi was intentionally understated. Walt wanted natural, unaffected performances, especially from the children. Donnie Dunnigan, the voice of young Bambi, later recalled that Walt told him, "Just be yourself, don't act." The result is a sincerity that still resonates. Young Thumper was brought to life by Peter Bain, the son of a Disney studio artist who happened to be in the right place at the right time. Bain was only 4 years old when he was auditioned, and his natural, slightly mischievous delivery immediately charmed the team. Supervising director David Hand later recalled that Walt loved the unpolished authenticity of the boy's voice, especially the way he stumbled over certain words. "Don't fix it," Walt said. "That's who Thumper is." Bane's unaffected innocence became one of the film's secret weapons, grounding the forest world with a child's sense of wonder. His line readings, simple, earnest, and often improvised, helped shape Thumper into one of Disney's most beloved side characters, a perfect counterbalance to Bambi's quiet vulnerability. Even decades later, Bane would say he had no idea he was making history. He was just a kid talking about a bunny. And Walt knew that was exactly the magic the film needed. The film's artistic soul came from its visual team. Tyrus Wong, a Chinese-American artist, transformed the film with his atmospheric backgrounds. Instead of detailed forests, Wong used impressionistic washes of color that were misty, dreamlike, and evocative. Walt immediately recognized his genius. "He's the one who gave us the look of the picture," Walt said. Wong's backgrounds served as the bottom layer in the many multiplane camera sequences in the film. I believe Bambi is the finest example of the use of the multiplane camera. Backgrounds, trees, and animals seem realistically layered into a believable forest. The climactic fire pushed the multiplane camera to its absolute limits. Animators layered flames, smoke, and embers to create a sense of depth and danger. It remains one of the most impressive sequences in early animation. Bambi has memorable music as well. Composer Frank Churchill and lyricist Larry Morey crafted a score that feels like a soft tribute to the natural world. Love is a Song and Little April Shower became instant classics, blending seamlessly with the film's emotional arc. And of course, the brilliant animators. Frank Thomas, Ollie Johnston, Mark Davis, Milt Kahl, and the rest of the team all poured their hearts into the characters. Thomas later said, "We weren't animating animals. We were animating feelings." Walt himself was deeply invested in Bambi. More than any film since Snow White, this one reflected his own childhood memories of Marceline. Running through fields, watching wildlife, feeling the rhythms of nature. He often visited the animation rooms, offering notes, pushing for subtlety. One animator recalled Walt saying, "Let the audience feel the forest breathe." He wanted the film to be immersive, contemplative, and almost spiritual. Here's a picture of Roy and Walt visiting Walt's dreaming tree in Marceline. And yes, Walt personally approved the most memorable and impactful moment in the film. When asked whether the death of Bambi's mother was too traumatic, he replied, "It's the truth, and kids can take the truth." It was a bold choice, in my view, the right choice, and one that would define the film's legacy. Interestingly, man became one of cinema's most iconic antagonists without ever appearing on screen. The American Film Institute later ranked man as one of the greatest villains in movie history. This, of course, led to Bambi's profound impact on conservation. The film softened attitudes towards wildlife and hardened attitudes about hunting. Paul McCartney famously said that Bambi inspired his interest in animal rights. Many environmentalists cite the film as formative. Upon release in 1942, Bambi struggled financially due to wartime market closures. But re-releases in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s transformed it into a beloved classic. Its emotional honesty and visual beauty aged gracefully. For me, Bambi is one of the purest expressions of Walt Disney's philosophy that animation can reveal emotional truths in ways live action cannot. It's a film about growth, resilience, and the cycles that shape every life. Walt believed that stories should help children understand the world, but not shield them from it. In Bambi, he gave audiences a gentle but profound lesson: that beauty and loss coexist, that nature is both fragile and enduring, and that love continues, even after heartbreak. The film's quiet wisdom, its reverence for life, and its emotional courage make it a cornerstone of Walt's legacy. It reminds us that sometimes the softest stories leave the deepest marks. I hope you found this video interesting. Please let us know what you think in the comments below, and consider giving us a thumbs up, subscribing, and pressing the bell icon to receive notification of new content. Thanks so very much for your support.